Ah, the decorated war hero. The dutiful son. Last in a long bloodline of lightning wielders, going back more than a millennium. The Warden Captain, Atticus.
My spear is the last light you'll ever see!
This is Atticus Guide for Noobs. So just a little bit of lore. Atticus descends from an ancient bloodline of lightning wielders going back over 1,000 years, who rigorously trained in the arts of war from a very young age. Atticus became a battlefield prodigy and a famous war hero, but when Highguard suddenly returned, his ailing father, then on his deathbed, presented him with a strange heirloom key, capable of opening a secret place on the continent. He charged Atticus to seek out this place, to prepare to combat an ancient evil that would soon return. Whether real or merely the fevered ramblings of a dying man, Atticus swore to safeguard the artifact and discover its true purpose. Now he journeys to Highguard as a warden to fulfill the oath he made to his father and prepare to protect humanity from what's coming before it's too late. Atticus is an assault class warden who harnesses lightning-based abilities to pressure enemies, control space, farm resources, and deal damage to players and structures. Now let's get into his kit, starting with his passive, the Supercharged Axe. Atticus's passive is displayed on this icon above his abilities, where it shows how charged his axe is. When performing well-timed melee hits or by charging his axe through his tactical shock spear, more about that later, his axe will release an electrical explosion that damages nearby resources like Vesper, basically causing a chain reaction to farm more material at once, which allows you to farm more Vesper faster. This also makes Atticus slightly better for close range fights by incorporating melee into your battles to deal significantly more damage when meleeing with a fully charged axe. Which leads us to our tactical power, the shock spear. This is Atticus's main ability to control the battlefield, whether in open or close scenarios. Atticus throws a charged lightning spear that deals damage and shocks enemies on impact. After impact, the spear remains and can deal continuous damage to enemies who remain within its radius. And while it's placed, the opposing team can destroy your shock spears. This continuous damage is what charges Atticus's passive Supercharged Axe. Now, a little tip is you can also hold your tactical button to properly aim your shock spear, which shows its collision point and the radius of its shock. Atticus can hold 3 shock spears at one time with a cooldown duration of 60 seconds. However, Atticus can also pick back up his shock spears if they're thrown on accident or if a battle in a certain area is finished, to eliminate that cooldown time. So the best use for Atticus's tactical is against clustered enemies or to pressure choke points. A little bit more about that later. Next and final ability is his ultimate power, called Power Storm. This is arguably one of the strongest ultimates within Highguard right now. This is because of the relative ease of using the ultimate and the potential damage output it currently has. So within this ultimate, Atticus rises into the air and gains 5 lightning spears that do heavy damage to both players and structures. So this is extremely powerful for team fights, breaking enemy formations, as well as damaging structures around generators during raids. It's also important to note how limited your movement is while in this ultimate form. You can climb higher to help your aim, as well as being able to dive down, but you're mostly limited to the area you use the ultimate, so be smart when and where to activate it. So now that we're familiar with the character's abilities, let's talk about how to best play Atticus. In early game, Atticus should prioritize resource gathering and farming Vesper to level up gear, as he has a great advantage in farming quickly with his passive. And as an assault character, he will be dependent on taking most fights with the opposing team, so having the strongest loot available is a priority. So using your passive to mine faster, keeping your axe charged for early fights is essential. You can also use your shock spears early game to deny control over high traffic routes to confirm more loot for your team. So this is more map dependent of where the loot is, but it's something to keep in mind. In mid-game combat, using those shock spears to soften your enemies at range or disrupt the enemy holds during fights for the shield breaker is crucial for using Atticus correctly. So taking into account how many shock spears you have and when it could be helpful to pick up an old one if needed is something that you need to have on your mind while playing Atticus. Atticus is also very helpful in preparation for the shield breaker. As you place shock spears near or at checkpoints around the shield breaker spawn, this can allow for information of approaching enemies if the shock spear sneakily damages them, or if your opponent chooses to shoot your shock spear and alert you of their location. So hiding the spears can be incredibly easy in certain scenarios and maps where there's tight tunnels or in small generator rooms. When in team fights, your ultimate power storm should be saved for when enemies are grouped or during critical objectives like contests for the shield breaker. It's best combined with proper coordination with teammates, as it can trap enemies or forces them out of cover for your teammates. However, you should be privy to not activating it in a confined space like what you're watching right now. This may result in you becoming an easy floating target, as your limited movement will inhibit you. During raids, your ultimate is best used for zone denial inside enemy bases without activating it inside. So now that you're really familiar when and where to use Atticus, here's a few build and loadout tips to go alongside him. So Atticus performs best when his loadout reinforces his aggressive pressure playstyle. So mid-range weapons pair super well, so you can poke and build that charge before closing in. So using weapons like assault rifles. I wouldn't highly recommend a sniper rifle, as that doesn't have mid to close range ability, but if it's something you're more comfortable, then you should try it out. But an assault rifle is definitely highly recommended. Shorter ranger weapons also work super well when you plan to dive in after throwing shock spears. So that could be Kraken, Paladin, or any of the SMGs. When looking around for equipment and gear priority, you should be looking for items that increase damage output, ability efficiency, or survivability. So this would include the amulets like the tactical cooldown and the ultimate cooldown, which reinforce that aggressive playstyle of using your shock spears and ultimate more frequently. One of the blue amulets that also reinforces his playstyle is the Harvester amulet, which is a blue one which you can get early game, helps you build up more Vesper more quickly. The last equipment pieces are the raid equipment. I feel like this one is mostly up to preference, as each can allow you to charge in as an assault character. I would more recommend the hammer, as it allows you, one, to break down those walls and charge in as an assault character, but also with the purple earth hammer, you're able to make those walls and make rooms tighter, increasing the likelihood of doing damage with your shock spears and holding tighter corners and rooms. So now you know how not to be a noob with Atticus. So now get in there and use those tacticals like a pro. In the next one. See you.